Well, almost exactly to the hour on Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning, depending on your point of view. I don't really consider the night to be over until roughly 3 or 4 a.m. and not midnight. But still, roughly to the hour of what I had started late Friday night slash early Saturday morning, my 10-part ultimate Star Wars marathon. And barring the time I needed for sleeping or going to work, I've been grinding through these motherfuckers. There's been a few recent conversations I've been having on YouTube, largely around the Andy Trekkers channel, that are kind of disheartening. For 10 months now, since The Last Jedi came out, there's been this ongoing partisan divide emerging amongst the nerds. And for the most part, there is a lot of overlap with people's political affiliation. It's not entirely, there is some blurring. But kind of like in The Matrix, what the Oracle says to Neo about, you're not here to get help to make the choice, you've already made the choice. I'm fairly certain that with the vast bulk of all of you who do not like The Last Jedi, and Solo by extension, we're pre-triggered into already going into not liking it, to go in looking for any little thing to rationalize why you don't like it. It's not that your reasons are invalid. There are flaws with this movie, but all the Star Wars movies have flaws. A partisan backlash is the more acceptable, I would say, of the two options. Before this movie ever even came out, it was already post-election. There was all the posturing going on from the left about politics and the natures of people who didn't vote the way they wanted them to vote and all that kind of stuff. From people who were involved with the making of this movie. Like any little thing was going to throw you off. Oh, Leia using the Force to pull herself back into the spaceship after being blown into space. Oh, that's terrible, wasn't it? Man, she looked like Mary Poppins. Everyone loved the Mary Poppins line in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, but let's just ignore that. Consider if that movie had been made differently. And consider that the tragic events of Carrie Fisher dying when she did still happened, in this alternate timeline. But instead of filming that scene, they had the whole movie go by where Carrie Fisher never used the Force. And then Carrie Fisher dies, and so whatever plans they might have had for Episode 9 don't matter. The entire arc of Leia, after Return of the Jedi, she has never demonstrated to have learned the Force. Tell yourself that there wasn't going to be a backlash about that if that had been the case. Oh, what a shock. In like the dialogue of Return of the Jedi, there's like talk about like training Leia, and well, at some point she must have gotten some basic understanding. The idea of Rey doing a lot of the stuff that she could do, like being like instantly good at flying and mechanics and stuff. Anakin Skywalker was building robots as a child, flying pod races. Luke casually reattaches C-3PO's arm. Luke's a fucking farmer. And he's also like a certified robot technician. Yeah. These flaws have always been there, and people have always been able to overlook them because all movies are flawed. I mean, hell, a good chunk of the fun I have about my love of Star Trek is that there's so much there to nitpick and argue over because, in terms of the canon of that show, it's always been all over the goddamn map. The only thing this movie really did that was radically different is that it had flashback scenes. It's the first Star Wars with a flashback scene. And I'm not counting the vision sequence that Rey had because there was something almost but not quite similar with Anakin in episode 3. So yeah, it had a flashback that was new. Killing Snoke off prematurely without really much background information told about him. I mean, did anyone ever sit down and give anyone like the great backstory of why Moff Tarkin's a badass and that you need to be afraid of him? Or is it just through his performance you're like, holy shit, don't fuck with this fucking old geezer. He'll fucking execute your ass. Count Dooku. See him at the tail end of one movie. Seems like he might be a cool character with all these, like, maybe he's a double agent. Maybe he's actually being honest to Obi-Wan in his own weird way. And, like, he's not supposed to be telling him about that Sidious is in control. And he does have this plan of, like, getting close enough to the Emperor to take him out by learning the dark side kind of deep shit. But we never get to go anywhere. And then even the Clone Wars never really got into any of that, which I found a little disappointing. But it doesn't mean I don't like the Clone fucking Wars. It doesn't matter how you feel about these movies. It doesn't matter how you feel about Luke Skywalker. It doesn't matter how successful whatever little internet boycott bullshit that's not even like, it's barely on Lucasfilm's radar. Yes, them saying shit like it's all Russian bots, that's just nuts. But that's not even them saying that. That's some fucking article based on some fucking study, and you need to look into, like, well, who's doing the fucking study and how is it structured and is it a fucking legit study? Anyone can do a fucking study. Everything that is written down throughout the entire breadth of recorded history that is not an inventory list of a warehouse is a form of propaganda, from fiction to nonfiction. Every time a human being sits down and writes something, they're putting their spin and emphasis on things to get the reader to catch what they're trying to say. So much of what we're trying to say as people in our day-to-day lives are concepts that language is not good enough. Language is a wonderful tool and gives us so much expression. Animals have feelings, but they don't have words for those feelings. It's harder for them to, like, understand what's happening with themselves. We can put a name on love and hate and anger and all that kind of shit, and it helps us harness it and control it. But sometimes there's still lots of things that are deeper down in our hind brain that just can't be put into English or Japanese or Spanish or pick a language out of a hat. I think part of the problem with a lot of people is that you'll never be able to recapture the magic of Star Wars just based on the simple fact that you're an adult now. And you're never going to be able to have it, the fresh, open wonder. Like, remember when you were a kid and, like, every time you saw the movie, it was like the first time, even though you already knew what was going to happen, it still felt like it might be different this time. Maybe Luke will get away, kind of a thing, you know? You don't do that as an adult. You lock it in the first time, and it's informed by all your years of baggage and bullshit. So yeah, you're triggered into not liking this movie before you even had a chance to see it. Solo, I mean, y'all knew what you were doing. I mean, like, people were actively saying, I'm just not going to like it. And there is an awful lot of overlap, like I said, with the conservative Christian elements that are also in the camp of being against The Last Jedi. And past a certain point, there's just no point in arguing with believers just by the sake of the fact that you believe stuff. Kind of shows that you're willing to, like, leap beyond what is touchable in reality. So You can only argue up to a certain point, but there's just no arguing anymore. Both sides are so polarized. You need nonpartisans like us, like me, and others like me, in both regular politics and in regards to the rift going on here. You need people who can bridge the gap, but instead, all too often we find ourselves in these situations where we're basically just surrounded by enemies. Both sides always accuse us of being members of the opposition, no matter what we do or say. I find a lot. It's not true of everybody. There are a couple people who've been watching my videos regularly, and from your comments, I can tell you're kind of on the same page, or at least on board with most of what I'm saying. You can kind of see what I'm up to, hopefully. That this is a TV show, and I might not be necessarily acting quite like my normal self. That this is all an exaggeration. It's a Stephen Colbert-esque character of me. Because my name's not fucking Waspinator. Jesus Christ. So I'm on, you put me off my fucking cigarette. Check out that fantastic editing just there. A lot of people throw stones, don't even fucking do any of the fucking legwork. Unfortunately, I am of the opinion that a lot of the people who are trying to make careers out of YouTube, even the people who've been massively successful with it, in the long term, is this really a good career model to pursue and put yourself in and become dependent on? This thing's only been around for a decade. And they've already been a lot of things that have fucked around with its profitability. And so the trend for content creators seems to be going downward. And it's hard to imagine them ever restoring things back to the good old days. It's real easy to add new restrictions to things, but it's a lot harder to get them repealed. And if this movie is part of a big feminist agenda, it does it really badly. I've been thinking about this for a while. I'm watching it. Yeah, I guess it's my own self-confirmation bias of my own theories watching these damn things, but I can't help but going through the marathon being like, yeah, no, it's kind of how I've been thinking of it. Seems correct to me. Holdo is a bad example of female leadership, so why would they use her as an exemplar? And when it comes down to it, and the stuff that was coming out before the movie came out about characters and plot leaks and stuff, well, everyone was real busy worrying about the Forces Female t-shirt and Kazdan's kid saying some stuff about Trump voters on Twitter. There was a leak talking about how the part of the plot would be Poe and some of them being trapped on a derelict ship of some sort that's under the command of a bad guy captain that Dern was playing, and that was Holdo. So when I see her, even though she's part of the rebellion, maybe it's because I just expected her to be a bad guy. It didn't throw me off that she was antagonistic. If Rey is supposed to be a feminist icon, ignoring all the power stuff, I mean, Jedi have been literally popping up out of nowhere the entire time. The Skywalkers are an aberration. They're the only Jedi bloodline that's ever been discussed in anything canon. The extended universe novels were never really canon. They might have called them canon. They had canon unto themselves there for a while. But George Lucas didn't write them, and he didn't read every last little bit of every last one of them. He just signed the damn checks as they came in for the residuals. It's also foolish for Disney to even be doing the book thing so much and trying to say, oh, it's all their new canon. They ignore it as soon as they can. There's some stuff in the new comics about Han Solo's ex-wife. Where was that in the Solo movie? Nowhere. Instead, you kind of more get that vibe with Woody Harrelson and his girlfriend in that movie before she blows herself up. Which was abrupt, but not as like nonsensical as some people fucking put it out to be. She was pinned down. There's like either the mission was going to be a complete and total failure, and her surviving teammates would likely get captured and all other sorts of stuff because they wouldn't be able to get away because they'd be stuck on the train as it barrels into an Imperial station. And she's pinned down by laser fire, so she sacrifices herself so that the mission can at least get off and the rest of her team can get away. My God, that's never been done before as a device. It's so unbelievable. It's just some of the things that y'all have been nitpicking about. Anyway, back to Rey. If she's such a feminist icon, then how come they're having her do the classic dumb thing that girls aren't supposed to be encouraged to do of going for the bad boy? Ignoring the nice, charming guy who's totally devoted to her and would like totally just like be at her total beck and call constantly in terms of Finn. Fuck him. Ignore him, friend zone his ass, and leave him to be picked up by the first chick that comes across him that's willing to put out for him, Rose. She's got to chase the bad boy, because even though he murdered his father and is like abused her in some ways, she totally knows that like deep down inside, I can change him. You just don't know him like I do. Isn't that like one of the worst fucking female stars? I'm pretty goddamn sure that feminists don't actually like that kind of stuff. Or at least that would, but you know, hey, she's using the Force, so icon. In my own personal opinion, Finn's actually really the hero of this trilogy anyway, so far. He gets just about as much screen time. He's the one that gets the girl, as of this movie. He's the one that has any kind of structure of a hero's arc. Rey is just a mixture of Han Solo post the movie Solo and what we learn about Solo's origin in that movie, with a couple hints of Luke Skywalker in terms of it being a desert and being a Jedi. And that's it. Hell, those same overtones overlap with Anakin. She could be just as much of an Anakin ripoff, and Anakin didn't go on a hero's journey. She could be doomed to fall and turn the dark side at the end. Luke doesn't have to be dead. I talked about that in one of my last videos, so I don't want to repeat myself too much. But yeah, the reaction to this movie, the reaction to Solo, there's something fishy. Oh, yeah, there's something fishy, all fucking right. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of this fucking ongoing, never-ending, there's just no point. At some point, you have to adapt. This is the reality of what Star Wars is. It doesn't matter if you like it or not. No matter how successful you are at changing their tack as they go forward, it's never going to erase this from happening. Radical acceptance, man. Look it up. It's a psychological thing. You got to learn to roll with this shit and learn how to fucking live with it. Or fucking walk away with it. Or walk away from it. Do you notice how many videos I make about Avatar and how I'm constantly going on and on about how much Avatar sucks and how much I hate Avatar? You don't? Oh, it's because I don't like Avatar and therefore don't waste my fucking time talking about it.